Narad sir, I'll start.
Yes.
Indifferent to the sorrow and delight, untented by the marvel and the call, immobile he beheld the flux of things, calm and apart, supported all that is. His spirit's stillness helped the toiling world.
So, quite a few things to go over here. When one is indifferent to sorrow and to delight, opposites, seeming
Mm,
opposites, sorrow and delight are opposites. And one is untempted by the marvel and the miracle of life and the call. And one is immobile when it beholds the flux of things. Then one can be calm and apart and support everything that is in the world. And so his last line there, after the colon, is his spirit's stillness helped the toiling world. See, when one is involved in all of these things, one is moved by sorrow or moved by delight. These are emotions. The yogi has to rise above emotions. He has to be untempted by these miraculous things and even the call of the divine. He has to be immobile because he has to see this constant change or fluctuation, this flux of things.
mhm,
And when he has all those abilities, then he, in his calm and being apart, he is able to support all that is. And therefore his spirit's stillness helped the toiling world. These are very, very important 5 lines here because they experience such a calm and such a compassion, such a wonderful, absolute stillness. They
mhm.
speak of that stillness when seeing him. So we'll move on now because this is still Ashwapati's growth and experience.
Okay. Inspired by silence and the closed eyesight, his force could work with a new luminous art on the crude material from which all is made, and the refusal of inertia's mass, and the grey front of the world's ignorance, and niscient matter, and the huge error of life.
So many things to talk about here. Whoa. First of all, he is inspired by silence. And
Okay.
he's also inspired by the closed eye sight. Because when the eyes are closed, I take it that the third eye has opened. And that third eye is above body, life, and mind. It's in the higher worlds. And when one is in those higher worlds, one doesn't see all these toiling things and this flux of things because his force now could work with a new luminous art on the crude material from which all is made and the refusal of inertia's mass
Mhm.
and the gray front of the world's ignorance and nescient matter and the huge error of life. Look how many things he's telling us. He says his force could work on these different things because he is inspired by silence and his spirit stillness that is able to help the toiling world. So,
Mhm.
with the sight from within,
Mhm.
his force could now work with a new luminous art filled with light on the crude material from which all is made. Well, that crude material is matter, and
Mm,
we are all matter.
mm.
So we are the crude material from which all is made also. There's another part um, that we'll read later on when he can feel the hopes and the fears of all mankind coming into him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful passage. So we will be going into that before too long. So he is able to work with this crude material. He is able to work on the refusal of inertia's mass. Inertia doesn't want to do anything. It just wants to
Be
be
at its state.
inertia,
Mm-hmm.
be tamasic, see, no movement at all. And he's able to even work on the gray front, this forward portion of the world's ignorance. That is nescient matter. Nescience is the complete self-ignorance. And the
Mm-hmm.
huge era of life. What is this era of life? That's an interesting phrase. Well, it seems that life in the beginning, when Mother sent down these four emanations, was almost paradisical. But the emanations turned because they had such power, and love became hate, and truth became falsehood, and all those things. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's now able to work on all these things, this nescient matter, this huge era of life. Now we're going to see what what he is going to do.
Okay. As a sculptor chisels a deity out of stone, he slowly chipped off the dark envelope, line of defense of nature's ignorance, the illusion and mystery of the inconscient in whose black hull the eternal wraps his head, that he may act unknown in cosmic time.
Well, this is actually the play of the divine. Um, since the divine is everything and everything is the divine, we can't say that nothing is not the divine.
Mm-hmm.
But if the divine wants, he can also be ignorant and he can be inconscient. So now what Sri Aurobindo is telling us is that he, in the form of Ashwapati,
Mm-hmm.
slowly chipped off this dark envelope like a sculptor making a beautiful image. And that dark envelope is the line of defense of this ignorance of nature. Because nature is basically ignorant. She doesn't have a mind. She's just a creative force.
Mm-hmm.
And so this defense of nature's ignorance, this illusion and mystery of the inconscient,
Mm-hmm.
and we've read about the inconscient before, in whose black pall, the word is pall, and a
Oh,
pall is,
all.
yeah, pall is something that conceals or obscures.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a pall over his face. It was something that darkened, concealed. So, in whose black pall, the pall can even be um, a hood that covers the whole head.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the ancient monks used to
Mm-hmm.
have these palls, but here it's a black pall where
Okay.
the eternal is wrapping his head. Why does he do that? So he can act unknown in cosmic time. The eternal has to act unknown in our time because if he manifested himself completely, it would shatter the whole earth. It would shatter humanity. So he wants to act unknown in cosmic time until we can come to bring him out of ourselves and begin the transformation. of our human bodies. So we'll continue now with some lines. A splendor.
Oh, a splendor of self-creation from the peaks, a transfiguration in the mystic depths, a happier cosmic working could begin and fashion the world shape in him anew. God found in nature, nature fulfilled in God.
So we see now these things. First of all, this splendor of self-creation from the peaks. Notice the word self-creation is hyphenated.
Uh-huh.
So it comes from the very heights, we could say the top of the Himalayas,
Mm-hmm.
and a transfiguration in the mystic depths. So it's coming from the heights and it's coming from the mystic depths. And those two things were a happier cosmic working that could begin and fashion in him the world shape in a new way. And that new way was God found in nature, nature fulfilled in God.
Wow.
It's so magnificent, isn't it?
Very beautiful.
So, so we will go on to the next page.
Sure.
I have an, we'll just read a little bit more.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
God found in nature, yeah. All right. So we're
Already
going
in him.
to, life made its home.
Yeah, just one line about that, Narad sir.
Yeah.
Already in him was seen.
Yeah. What's the question?
No, no, I
Oh,
said
oh
before
yeah.
life
Okay.
made, there was one line. Yep. So
Right.
already in him was seen that task of power. Life made its home on the high tops of self. His soul, mind, heart became a single sun. Only life's lower reaches remained dim.
Well, this is Sri Aurobindo talking about his own progress. And he says to us that in the beginning, of course, we see that God was found in nature, nature is fulfilled in God. But he's now telling us that already that was seen in him, his task of power. Now, that task of power is to bring down the supramental. We don't know that yet because it's Ashwapati, and Ashwapati has to go through his long tapasya and realize that he cannot do this thing alone. And that's when he appeals to the Divine Mother to send him a daughter. And that daughter is Savitri, who comes from the sun. So life has now made its home on the highest tops of his self. His soul, his mind, his heart became a single sun. You see that his
Mhm.
entire being, soul, mind, and heart became a single sun. But then he has a semicolon there, and he tells us only life's lower reaches remained dim. Notice he doesn't say dark.
Yeah.
He doesn't say obscure. He
Yeah.
just uses the word dim.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out. We'll read four more lines, and then you have to. Well, we'll read a little bit more. Then I'll let you read the whole thing again. So,
Okay. That it's just one question I have. So
sure.
here when he says his soul, mind and heart became a single sun, in the sense that flame of divine consciousness uh, is seen on the top, but then maybe the rays of it are reaching down to the lower parts. Is that how? Uh,
Yeah, the lower reaches are the subconscious, inconscient, the nescience, all of those
okay.
things that just remained a little bit dim. But the high tops of self, the mind, the heart, and the soul became a single sun. Single sun means totally divine.
Okay.
But there, he still has to work a bit on the life's lower reaches,
Mm-hmm.
which have remained dim. But we're going
Okay.
to see now. He's going to talk about more about that.
Okay. Um, but there too, in the uncertain shadow of life, there was a labor and a fiery breath,
Fiery,
fiery. There
like
was a
fire, like fiery, like
fire.
fire.
There was a labor and a fiery breath. The ambiguous, cowled, celestial puissance worked.
Puissance, puissance,
Puissance.
puissance.
The ambiguous, cowled, celestial puissance worked, watched by the inner witnesses, moveless peace.
So now it's going to let us know more. You see, there too, even in those lower reaches of life, in that uncertain shadow of life,
Uh-huh.
there was a work, and there was a fiery breath at work, Agni. The ambiguous, cowled. Now, a cowl is actually the hood that covers someone's head. This puissance is worked, but it's worked in an ambiguous way we can't see because it's cowled, it's hidden. But it is a celestial puissance that is working, celestial power is working. And that whole working, the labor, the fiery breath, and the puissance working is watched by the inner witnesses, moveless peace. Sri Aurobindo talks to us about this witness soul. He says the witness soul is the immutable Purusha, and that's from the essays on the Gita.
Okay.
So this is the inner witness, the witness soul.
Okay.
We can read a little bit more because it's actually quite a bit more, but
Sure.
I think it's important that we read the whole thing.
Okay.
It's going to
Even
be
sure.
okay.
Even on the struggling nature left below, strong periods of illumination came. Lightnings of glory after glory burned. Lightnings of glory after glory burned. Experience was a tale of blaze and fire. Air rippled around the argosies of the gods. Strange reaches sailed to him from the unseen. Splendor of insight filled the blank of thought. Knowledge spoke to the inconscient stillnesses. Rivers poured down of bliss and luminous force. Visits of beauty, storm sweeps of delight rained from the all-powerful mystery above.
So what Ashwapati is going through now is incredible. I mean, so now we're talking about that lower nature that we saw, the lower reaches that remained dim.
Uh-huh.
We've seen there was a work going on and a fiery breath. We saw this puissance working, and everything is watched by the inner witnesses, moveless peace. And even on this struggling nature that is left below, the material nature, matter, the human body, strong periods of illumination came. Lightnings of glory after glory burned. Experience was a tale of blaze and fire. Air rippled around the argosies of the gods. Argosies are usually fleets of merchant ships that have very rich cargo.
Okay.
So we see that air is rippling around these argosies. Strange riches. So you see, he says, um, argosies, which are merchant ships. And then he says, strange riches sailed to him from the unseen. So he's using this image of the sea and the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Splendors of insight fill this blank of thought. So when the mind is totally still and the mind becomes blank, then the splendors of insight can fill this blank of thought of the empty mind. And that's also when knowledge can speak to the inconscient stillnesses. And not only that, but we see here that rivers are pouring down into him of bliss and force that's filled with light. Then he has visits of beauty. He has storm sweeps of delight that are raining down from the all-powerful mystery above. This is Ashwapati's development. So now maybe you can read from the beginning.
Sure. Okay. Indifferent to the sorrows and delight, untempted by the marvel and the call, immobile it held the flux of things, calm and apart, supported all that is his spirit's stillness, helped the toiling world, inspired by silence and the closed eyes sight. His force could work with a new luminous heart on the crude material from which all is made, and the refusal of inertia's mass, and the grey front of the world's ignorance, and nescient matter in the huge error of life. As a sculptor chisels a deity out of stone, he slowly chipped off the dark envelope, line of defense of nature's ignorance. The illusion and mystery of the inconscient in whose black pall the eternal wraps his head, that he may act unknown in cosmic time. A splendor of self creation from the peaks, transfiguration in the mystic depths, a happier cosmic working could begin and fashion the world shape in him anew. God found in nature, nature fulfilled in God. Already in him was seen that task of power. Life made its home on the high tops of self. His soul, mind, heart became a single sun. Only life's lower riches remained dim. But there too, in the uncertain shadow of life, there was a labor and a fiery breath. The ambiguous cowled celestial puissance worked, watched by the inner witnesses moving moveless peace. Even on the struggling nature left below, strong periods of illuminations came.
Illumination, singular.
Okay, strong periods of illumination came. Lightnings of glory after glory burned. Experience was a tale of blaze and fire. Air rippled around. The argosies of the gods. Strange riches sailed to him from the unseen. Splendor of insight filled the blank of thought. Knowledge spoke to the inconscient stillnesses. Rivers poured down of bliss and luminous force. Visits of beauty, storms, sweeps of delight rained from all, rained from the all-powerful mystery above. Big
Good.
praise.
Very good.
Okay. All right.
Okay. See you next week.
Sure.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, that's it.